Children Jacinta, Gianna, and Kateri. Daughter Elizabeth Morgan, husband Jake, and grandchildren Jaden, Leah, and Andrew. Son, CW3 Zach Francis, and granddaughter Zoe. Brother John Francis. Brother Dr. Pat Francis and his wife Karen. Sister Biz Stoltz. Sister Suzanne and her husband Dr. John O'Neill. Sister-in-law Michelle Francis, and children Jack, Maddie, Nina, and Eliana. Joining us virtually is Major General and Mrs. Francis' daughter, ROTC cadet Hannah Francis, who is currently in a summer nursing course in Texas. Distinguished family and friends of the McCurrys include their children Maggie, Jed, and John. Daughter, First Lieutenant Mary Delvaux, and her husband, First Lieutenant Evan Delvaux. Father, Colonel retired Mick McCurry, and his mom Kathy. Father-in-law, Colonel retired Bill Goodwin, and his mother-in-law Liz. Sister Francine Martinez and her son Bryce. Aunt and uncle, Dr. Mike and Barbara Dennis. Watching virtually, Brigadier General McCurry's daughter, First Lieutenant Katie Walter, who is deployed to Poland, and their son, Specialist Michael McCurry. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the invocation given by Chaplain Crowley, Aviation Center Senior Command Chaplain.
Well, good morning. Would you bow your heads and pray with me? Father, we ask your presence and a special blessing for this change of command ceremony. Grant Major General Francis and his family an understanding of all that they have achieved while leading, guiding, and directing the Aviation Center of Excellence. Prepare them now for new duties and responsibilities as they head to Europe. They will be sorely missed. As the McCurrys take the flag today, provide the utmost wisdom to lead this multifaceted command. Let our Fort Rucker community embrace them as they plant roots here. Lastly, we ask for your covering protection of our soldiers and families. God bless our Army, our country, and this post. Above the best, amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Flowers will now be presented to the outgoing incoming spouses and families by Fort Rucker Sergeant Audie Murphy Club non-commissioned officers. Mrs. Jody Francis is receiving a bouquet of red roses from Sergeant First Class Daniel Dart. Red is the color of the heart and reflects the loving concern that she has shown the soldiers, civilians, and their families. Her roses are in full bloom, symbolizing the beauty and fulfillment of her time with us at the Aviation Center of Excellence. Single red roses are being presented by Staff Sergeant Ricky Gibbs to their daughters Emma, Sarah, Rachel, Becca, and Elizabeth, and grandchildren Lucy, Zoe, Jacinta, Gianna, Kateri, Jaden, Leah, and Andrew. Their son, CW3 Zach Francis, and son-in-laws Christopher McGarry's, Jacob Morgan, and Christopher Audino will receive a commemorative gift. Mrs. Sadie McCurry is receiving a bouquet of yellow rosebuds from Sergeant First Class Nicholas Allen. Yellow is the color of new beginnings. In time, her rosebuds will blossom, as will her relationship with the soldiers, civilians, and their families. Single yellow rosebuds are being presented by Sergeant Liberty Wooten to their daughters First Lieutenant Mary Delvaux and Miss Maggie McCurry, and their sons John and Jed McCurry, and son-in-law First Lieutenant Evan Delvaux will receive a commemorative gift. Sound-off is a ceremonial tradition that has been handed down over the decades since the earliest days of the American Army. On the command of sound-off, custom holds for the band to march across the front of troops, countermarch back across the front, halting in its original position. This tradition originated in the Crusades when troops offering themselves for holy service were drawn up into a long formation and the band countermarched before those chosen to serve. The United States Army Training and Doctrine Command Band can trace its roots to the band 2nd Coast Artillery, which was originally organized on April 30th, 1931, where the band transferred from Panama to Fort Monroe. On October 1st, 1944, the 2nd Coast Artillery Regiment became the 2nd Coast Artillery Battalion. Following World War II, the Coast Artillery was abolished, and the band of the 2nd Coast Artillery School was redesignated as the 69th Army Ground Forces Band on 12 May 44. In May of 46, the band was transferred with the Coast Artillery School to California. The Army Ground Forces Band, which is now the Army Field Band, was present for the opening of the Army Ground Forces headquarters at Fort Monroe, Virginia on October 1st, 1946, but apparently was returned to Fort George G. Meade, Maryland shortly thereafter. The 69th Army Ground Forces Band was constituted, redesignated, and activated as the 50th Army Ground Forces Band on 18 October 1945 at Fort Meade, Maryland. It was transferred on 19 October 45 to Camp Pickett, Virginia, then back to Fort Meade on 16 April of 46. It was transferred again to Fort Monroe, Virginia on 14 November 1946. On the 15th of May of 47, the 50 Ground Forces Band was redesignated the 50th Army Band. On June 24th, 1972, the band was redesignated the United States Army Continental Army Band. It served as the band for the United States Army Continental Army Command, CONARC. The band was later redesignated the United States Army Training and Doctrine Command Band on the 15th of February, 2006. After its transfer in November of 46, the 50th Army Band, that is the direct lineage of the current TRADOC Band, remained on Fort Monroe until June 24th, 2011, when it was transferred to Fort Eustis, Virginia as part of the Base Realignment and Closure Act of 2005, which ultimately closed Fort Monroe as an Army garrison on 15 September 2011. Today, under the flag of the United States Army Training and Doctrine Command, the band continues the long and proud heritage of service established by the 2nd Coast Artillery Band. The band's mission is to provide music for headquarters TRADOC areas of interest by fostering soldier and family morale, telling the Army story to the civilian community, providing support for recruiting initiatives, conducting educational outreach programs, and supporting the strategic messages of the Commanding General TRADOC. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in a round of applause for the TRADOC Band from Fort Eustis, Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party. The reviewing officer is Lieutenant General Theodore D. Martin, Commanding General, United States Army Combined Arms Center. He is being accompanied by the outgoing commander, Major General David J. Francis, and the incoming commander, Brigadier General Michael C. McCurry. The commander of troops is Colonel Whitney B. Gardner. Please remain standing for the rendering of honors. For this ceremony, Lieutenant General Martin has deferred this honor to Major General Francis. During the cannon volleys, the proper courtesy by military personnel is the hand salute. All others will remain standing. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, Sergeant Major Morgan Evans, USAACE G3 Sergeant Major, is presenting Major General Francis a shell casing commemorating his farewell salute. The reviewing party will now move forward to troop the line and inspect the assembled soldiers. It is believed that Alexander the Great was the first military commander to use this long-standing tradition of inspection. The Army Aviation School transitioned to Camp Rucker, Alabama in August of 1954, with the first class starting in September. In March of '55, the Army established the Aviation Center at Camp Rucker, and in October of that year, the post was given permanent status with a name change from Camp Rucker to Fort Rucker. Lacking adequate facilities for training at Fort Rucker, Army Aviation continued primary fixed-wing training at Camp Gary, Texas until '59, and primary rotary wing training at Fort Walters, Texas until '73. In 1956, the Army Aviation Center started testing weapons on helicopters. These tests led to the development of armament systems for Army attack helicopters and attack aviation operations as we know it today. This forever changed the direction of the aviation branch, providing the Army with a new capability. Both Army Aviation and the helicopter came of age during the Vietnam War. The first Army helicopters arrived in December 1961, and thousands of soldiers and aircraft soon followed. This was the birth of air assault operations, changing the face of modern warfare and the American way of war. Army Aviation served gallantly until the completion of the disengagement and Vietnamization process in 1973 and set the foundation for the future of helicopters and the branch. Most importantly, Army Aviation gained the trust of the soldiers and commanders on the ground, building a sacred bond that defines the branch to this day. The creation of the Army Aviation Branch on 12 April 1983 gave the Army a permanent branch focused on exploiting the third dimension of warfare. It provides the nation an insurmountable operational and tactical advantage without peer in scale or capability, focused on providing the air-ground team that required mobility, lethality, survivability, and situational understanding to win in an increasingly complex world. As part of the Joint Combined Arms Team, Army Aviation presents the enemy with multiple dilemmas in time, space, and tempo, enabling the Combined Arms Team to seize, retain, and exploit the initiative by attacking the enemy from multiple directions, at times, locations, and at a tempo of the ground maneuver commander's choosing. Army Aviation has played a critical role in the crucible of ground combat for more than 60 years, to include operations in Grenada, Panama, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Somalia, Kosovo, Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation New Dawn, Operation Freedom Sentinel, Operation Inherent Resolve, and numerous other operations across the world. Army Aviation continues to play a decisive role throughout the globe, executing operations in support of the ground commander. During more than 20 years of combat operations, Army Aviation has demonstrated its ability to adapt to changing mission requirements and operate in extreme conditions. Our aviators play a critical role whether they are entrenched in the high mountains of Afghanistan or the urban areas of Iraq, bringing the fight to the enemy throughout the globe, serving with distinction, honor, and pride. Army Aviation has consistently proven itself during combat operations, maintaining the trust of the ground force commander, executing combined arms maneuver in support of unified land operations. The combination of state-of-the-art equipment in the hands of highly trained and skilled soldiers virtually guarantees success of the branch, the Army, and our nation, now and into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the singing of our national anthem performed by Miss Kendall Thompson. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The reviewing party will now move forward for the traditional passing of the unit colors. They will orient on and be assisted by Command Sergeant Major James D. Wilson, the Aviation Center of Excellence Command Sergeant Major, and CW5 Michael L. Lewis, Chief Warrant Officer of the Aviation Branch. Symbolic of the change of command is the passing of the organizational colors from the outgoing commander to the incoming commander. The earliest recorded use of colors by a military unit in battle was in the 16th century BC. In battle, the colors were used as an insignia of leadership, serving to identify either friend or foe, to strike terror into the enemy, and to denote rank. The colors were the first objective in battle, and their fall meant confusion and probable defeat. It is the Command Sergeant Major who pulls the colors from their guard, and it will be the Command Sergeant Major who secures them. Thus, the commander conveys high trust upon the custodian of the colors. By authority of AR 600-20, paragraph 2-5, the undersigned assumes command of the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence and Fort Rucker, effective 21 July 2022. Signed, Michael C. McCurry, Brigadier General, U.S. Army, commanding. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commanding General of the United States Army Combined Arms Center in Fort Leavenworth, Lieutenant General Theodore D. Martin.
Well, thank you, everybody. And I want to let you know, I've got my remarks here, but I note that both of these generals have big, huge binders. I'm also noting that as we troop the line, and you'll forgive the marching, please, that I saw turkey vultures circling over the formation, so I'll keep that in mind. But what I'd like to do first off is welcome everybody here today, and thank you for honoring not only these two great Army families, but this great institution, the Aviation Center of Excellence, and these wonderful soldiers that are represented on the field today. And we spend a lot of time today presenting awards to the outgoing commander and recognizing the incoming commander. But what the Army usually does a poor job of doing is recognizing our spouses. And I can tell you without any hesitation that these two general officers would not be standing here if it were not for Jody and Sadie and all of us, if our spouses hadn't been supporting us every single step of the way. So if you would, please join me in a round of applause for Army spouses. Well, to be honest with you, I feel like I'm back home. The first house that I remember was right here at Fort Rucker, Alabama, back in 1967. We lived at 30 Kirby. And I went by 30 Kirby last night, and that old duplex that housed a colonel and a lieutenant colonel, 4 kids, a mom, 3 dogs, it's long gone, replaced by some great Army housing for one single family. And I think that really speaks to the type of change that's been going on these past 30 to 40 years. So back when I was here, we had a 5-digit phone number, and Major General Delk Ogden of World War II fame was the commanding general here. But those folks were bringing Army aviation into the future, and I know that I speak for every single soldier, non-commissioned officer, warrant officer, officer and general officer when I say that we are so proud of Army aviation and all that it has delivered. There is not a soldier in uniform who spent a minute in combat that has not been the benefactor of Army aviation. They are the best, undisputed champions in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud of my association with Army aviation. It's the crown jewel of our Army, and I'd like to give a round of applause for the soldiers on the field who represent Army aviators around the world. And I shall continue to drive on the objective, cognizant of the heat and humidity. But this great work by the Francis family here these past 36 months, and folks, I've been in TRADOC now for almost 5 years. You do not get a third year because you don't get it right. You get a third year at a center of excellence because you're the right person for the right job at the right time. You're making progress, and that's exactly what Major General Dave Francis and his wonderful team did here these past 37 months. And I might add that that was during the height of the pandemic. It's becoming a distant memory for a lot of folks, but not for me. I was at Fort Eustis, Virginia, when HP Con Charlie was declared. I happened to be at the 128th Aviation Brigade trying to figure out how we could safely train aviation maintainers in a COVID environment. It only got worse from there. Well, you cannot telework, make an Army aviation maintenance experts. You cannot telework into the cockpit and create Army aviators. You can't telework and help develop the Army that will be flying in 2030 as a multi-domain capable force. But somehow, this commanding general here, his command sergeant major, that chief warrant officer, and all the other leaders at Echelon found a way to do it and do it safely. And we are so thankful for all that you were able to accomplish. So, Dave, Jody, Stephanie and I wish you all the best as you head off to Germany. I know it took General Townsend a hot half a second to say, yes, I want Dave Francis to be my G3, but only if he brings Jody and the family with him. We wish you all the best, and thank you for all that you've done. Mac, you and Sadie, welcome to the Combined Arms Center, and on behalf of General Funk, welcome to the Training and Doctrine Command. I will only challenge you with my 3 imperatives. Ensure we have an aviation force that is ready to fight and win. I truly believe we will be in a fight before we know it. 2, ensure you treat everyone here with dignity and respect. And finally, it goes without saying, if we're going to do this right, you need to train like your life depends on it. And I know that you are the right man for the right job. Folks, you should take a quick look at the biographies and note that these 2 commanding generals both spent their formative years in the Republic of Korea with the 2nd Infantry Division. It's a hard assignment. It's tough on the families, but it creates the leaders that we need. So for all the youngins out there, do not avoid. Seek out those tough assignments at the combat training centers and forward deployed in Europe and in the Republic of Korea. Mac, Sadie, I can't wait to see where you take the Aviation Center of Excellence. We wish you all the best. May God bless our great Army, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Major General David J. Francis.
Well, good morning, everybody. Sir, thank you for being down here in your words today. I'd like to say good morning to all of our distinguished guests, our Gold Star families, general officers, command sergeants, major, family, and friends. We're honored that you're joining us today here in person or virtually. My thanks to TRADOC Band, the firing battery, and most certainly to the soldiers on the field today that represent the thousands that continue training as we speak, and all the partner units that make up this Fort Rucker team. And how about that rendition of the national anthem by our own Kendall Thompson, daughter of our ACS director, Kent Thompson. Incredible job. Great job, Kendall. You're going to want to get that young lady's autograph before you leave here today. Again, sir, thank you for your leadership in our Army and leading the charge for the Army of 2030 and your clear guidance and vision about how we design and build the Army that will fight and win large-scale combat operations. And on a personal note, sir, thank you for your mentorship over the years. The Francis family has truly appreciated it. So the last 3 years have given Jody and I the opportunity and the privilege of working with the finest team of professionals and dedicated Americans in our Army, and a front row seat to what innovative leadership can do. And in that time, I learned 3 things. And I told that to Jody, and she said, "That's one thing a year. I'm so proud." The first thing I learned was that engaged leadership matters up and down the chain. When leaders are engaged, we put people first. And when we put people first, there is absolutely nothing we can't do. This team built the foundation of transforming Army aviation from a counterinsurgency-focused force to one that will be led, trained, and equipped to fight, survive, and win against any future threat. They did all this while fighting through COVID. Our soldiers figuring out how to continue to train during the pandemic in the confines of cockpits, control towers, and classrooms. This was a total team effort that included our medical professionals and our incredible team of community leaders from our CASA to our mayors and other local leaders. Engaged leaders across the board is the only way these challenges were met head on. The second thing I learned was that we can't take for granted our standing in the world or in our country as an Army. We have to earn that right every day through our training, developing our leaders, and modernizing our equipment. We also have to modernize how we train and organize our forces and develop leaders with urgency and innovation. The world is rapidly changing, and we have to be agile enough to maintain our asymmetric advantage over our adversaries. The good news is that despite the noise in our world today, the Army is developing leaders of character who represent the very best in our nation. We have to continue to fight to assess and retain the very best to lead our Army into the future. And we need everybody to do that. Those still in uniform and those soldiers of life that are out here today for your help in that effort. And the third thing I learned is how fulfilling and fun it is to be part of a high-performing team that does hard, important things that matter to our branch, our Army, and our nation, and to our allies and partners. We have been honored to serve with an incredible command team, personal staff, commanders and command sergeants, majors, and directors dedicated to our future. And it has been an honor working with my teammates across the aviation enterprise in the six-pack and beyond. And my thanks to General Todd Royer for being down here today. You've been an incredible teammate, you and your whole team and everybody on the six-pack, and I appreciate your friendship and leadership. Now, my last point is one that I didn't learn over these last 3 years but have known all along, and that is the importance of family. Our Army family, many of you in the audience today that span the course of our career and are responsible for us being here today, and the family that I'm most proud of sitting in the front row, or actually the front couple of rows here today. We certainly miss our daughter Hannah being here, as she's at Fort Hood training to be an Army nurse, and Zach's wife Mary expecting our 10th grandchild, and our granddaughter Maya, and Jody's mom Mary Ellen. We wish they could have been here today, but we love and miss them as well. I could not be more proud of each and every one of you and your growing families. Your resiliency and support throughout this Army life inspires and humbles me. And to my best friend Jody, my confidant, my fiercest supporter and critic, this 33-year journey would have been impossible without your love, encouragement, and humor, and words simply fail to convey what you mean to our family, especially to me. I love you. And as sad as we are to leave this incredible team, I am excited to pass the colors to Brigadier General Mac McCurry. Mac and Sadie are great friends, and there is no one more qualified to lead Army aviation into the future. Mac, this marks the 4th time that you have replaced me. And so the Army recognizes your ability to clean up after me, and you're going to need it. All right, you're joining a superb team, my friend, and Jody and I wish you and Sadie Godspeed. And so to wrap it up, team, I thank God for the opportunity to serve with this incredible team, and I ask that He bless each and every one of you, your families, our soldiers deployed around the world in this great nation. Thank you all. Above the best.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce the Commanding General of the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence in Fort Rucker, Brigadier General Michael C. McCurry.
Distinguished guests, General Martin, fellow officers, non-commissioned officers, soldiers, family, and friends. Today is an incredibly humbling day for our family. This assignment is truly a homecoming. On the 7th of December, 1973, as a first grader at Fort Rucker Primary School, and sir, I lived at 92 North Harris, I stood right here on this same parade field and watched my dad's flight school class fly by in their UH-1s. My father-in-law also earned his wings here and brought a daughter into the world at Lister Army Hospital. And most importantly, 29 years ago, I met that daughter, Sadie, an Enterprise High grad, by the way, in the Post Chapel at Fort Rucker. We're very excited to be back here in the Wiregrass, where our family journey began. Special thanks to my parents, Sadie's parents, my siblings, aunts, and uncles here and far away, and our incredible children for their sacrifices to support our service. You see most of them in the front couple rows here, but a special shout out to First Lieutenant Katie Walter, deployed, and our paratrooper son, Michael, who couldn't be here. I see so many distinguished guests, friends, and mentors, it would be impossible to mention you all. So to all of my mentors, former commanders, NCOs, and soldiers, thank you. You all made this day happen. General Martin, thanks for hosting the ceremony, and thanks to the Army leadership for entrusting this role to us. Sergeant Major, the soldiers look magnificent. Thanks to you and the team for making this ceremony possible. Special thanks to the TRADOC Band and Salute Battery for adding an air of dignity to this event. To our good friends, Major General Dave and Jody Francis. We are old hats at this after 4 iterations. I think they keep giving us a chance to repeat transition. But as always, you've been gracious, welcoming, and open, and we cannot ask for better friends, mentors, or examples. To the greatest soldiers in the world in our civilian workforce, my single charge today is to always uphold the sacred trust and bond with the soldier on the ground. That is why we exist. Sadie and I are honored to continue serving alongside you, and we will keep taking care of soldiers and families. Above the best, victory starts here. Army strong.
commander of troops is Colonel Whitney B. Gardner from Memphis, Tennessee. The commander of the Tradoc Band is Major Day Kim from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The drum major is Sergeant David Felton from Morehead City, North Carolina. The 1st Aviation Brigade Command Team is Colonel Rich Tucker from Tampa, Florida, Command Sergeant Major Terrence Reyes from Bishopville, South Carolina, and CW5 Michael Main from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The 1st Battalion, 13th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Colonel Jeremy Norland from Pomeroy, Washington, and Command Sergeant Major Michael McAvoy from Twin Falls, Idaho. The 2nd Battalion, 13th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Jacob Roper from DeRidder, Louisiana, and Command Sergeant Major Jason Gunter from Negaunee, Michigan. The 1st Battalion, 145th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Catherine Slingerland from Charleston, South Carolina, and Command Sergeant Major Joey Dotson from Portales, New Mexico. The 128th Aviation Brigade Command Team is Colonel Jacob Miller from Salem, Oregon, Command Sergeant Major Michael Resmondo from Foley, Alabama, and CW5 Donald Chambers from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The 1st Battalion, 210th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Dylan Malcolm from Sacramento, California, and Master Sergeant Casey Hargrove from Thorndike, Maine. The 2nd Battalion, 210th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Travis Rabb from Wake Forest, North Carolina, and Command Sergeant Major Chris Margiano from Flushing, New York. The 1st Battalion, 222nd Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Jason Brubaker from Plains, Montana, and Command Sergeant Major Joseph Warren from Richmond, Virginia. The Commandant of the U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence Non-Commissioned Officer Academy, Fort Rucker, is Command Sergeant Major Jose M. Perez, Jr. from Key West, Florida. The Deputy Commandant is First Sergeant Armis Martin from Crestview, Florida. The Commandant of the U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence Non-Commissioned Officer Academy, Fort Eustis, is Command Sergeant Major Francisco Declet from Caguas, Puerto Rico, and the Deputy Commandant is First Sergeant Michael L. Manwaring from Lisle, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as the national colors pass and render the appropriate honors. The USAACE Color Guard is led by Command Sergeant Major James D. Wilson from Warner Robins, Georgia, and CW5 Michael L. Lewis from Arcadia, North Carolina. The 110th Aviation Brigade Command Team is Colonel Michael S. Johnson from Novato, California, Command Sergeant Major Julio Santos from Springfield, Virginia, and CW5 Robert Macy from West Plains, Missouri. The 1st Battalion, 11th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel April Kearney from Anderson, Missouri, with Command Sergeant Major Ramon Casas from San Juan, Puerto Rico. The 1st Battalion, 14th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Kelly from Yakima, Washington, and Command Sergeant Major Luis Beltran from Carolina, Puerto Rico. The 1st Battalion, 212th Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Edward Adams from Huntsville, Texas, and Command Sergeant Major Dinep Garcia from Brooklyn, New York. The 1st Battalion, 223rd Aviation Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Walker from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Command Sergeant Major Andrew Durkinson from Mansalona, Michigan. The Air Traffic Services Command and 164th Theater Airfield Operations Group Command Team is Colonel Jason Cook from Roswell, Georgia, with Command Sergeant Major Michael Narvid from Hollywood, Florida. Though not in formation due to deployment, the 1st Battalion, 58th Airfield Operations Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Travis Betts from Metter, Georgia, and Sergeant Major Bryce Jackson from Oakland, California. The 3rd Battalion, 58th Airfield Operations Regiment Command Team is Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Chedkuchi from Detroit, Michigan, and Sergeant Major Brian McFarland from Latta, South Carolina. The Commandant of the United States Army Warrant Officer Career College is Colonel Ross Nelson from Ivanhoe, Minnesota, with 1st Sergeant Yvonne Young from Statesboro, Georgia. The Fort Rucker Garrison Command Team is Colonel Robert Holcomb from Morgan Hill, California, and Command Sergeant Major Christopher Doss from Birmingham, Alabama. The United States Army Combat Readiness Center Command Team is Brigadier General Gene D. Meredith from Racine, Wisconsin, and Command Sergeant Major James L. Light from Holly Springs, Mississippi. The Aviation Center Logistics Command Team is Colonel Matthew Parker from Snyder, Texas, with Sergeant First Class Cynthia Reyes from Aurora, Illinois. The U.S. Army Dental Clinic Command is commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Larry L. Monk from Niceville, Florida, with Staff Sergeant Patrick O. Brown from Cairo, Georgia. The U.S. Army Aeromedical Research Laboratory Command Team is Colonel Mike Tarpey from Indianapolis, Indiana, and Master Sergeant Alexis Bastidas from Salinas, Puerto Rico. The Lister Army Health Clinic Command is Lieutenant Colonel Garrett Holt from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Sergeant Major Shavonda McLean from Pass Christian, Mississippi. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join us in singing Above the Best in the Army Song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Thank you for being with us. Major General Mrs. Francis will receive final farewells at the tent to the left of the reviewing stand. Thank you. Above the best.